With the availability of computers, more and more people have the ability to produce their own publications. The computer is used to create flyers, brochures, newsletters, reports. But think about this. Print is powerful. Think in your own life of things that you've kept from loved ones. Perhaps you keep cards, letters, notes, something that you refer back to. The same thing is in a brochure, newsletter, whatever. It's tangible. People and has a life of its own. You can read it whenever you want, at the pace that you want, and keep it for future reference. Let's take a look at your publication checklist. The elements that make up a successful publication are careful writing, thoughtful organization, effective design, and grow out of an understanding of your message, your audience, and your resources. So let's take a look at that first bullet there, purpose. What's your purpose of your brochure, newsletter, what have you? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to persuade, identify, inform? Is it a reference tool? Are you trying to elicit a response? Are you trying to get out the vote, or what have you? Or it could even be how-to information. Once you figured out the purpose, then why is it needed? Why does your reader need this information? Your audience, identifying your audience is huge because it helps you choose the techniques to kind of lure them in and hopefully pick up your designed piece. Information. Different publications have different elements, such as a brochure for a conference would require, workshop information. How much does it cost? What is being offered? Are there meals covered? That type of thing. Corporate style. Do you need to include a corporate look and logo? For example, at Midstate, if you go out to any of the Midstate and look at the kiosks or the brochures that we have sitting out there, we follow the current kind of corporate color scheme. We always have a logo on. What kinds of art and how much will be needed is important to think about. The pictures that you're using, do they go with the idea? For example, if you were doing a brochure about the Children's Museum, you wouldn't have a bunch of pictures in there of senior citizens or that type of thing. So you want to make sure you have it related to the topic and that it draws readers to your publication. We talk about balance a lot as we work through graphics, and the reason why is we as humans, we need to have balance, and it gives a feeling of harmony. And here's just an example of, they've done studies where if you give a baby chimp, and even children, if you give them long enough, they will cover the entire page evenly because they want that kind of balance occurring. Also, if you put something in the upper left-hand corner, like we have on the image on the right-hand side, you can see that that box, often for that kind of balance feel, they went diagonally right across from it and kind of scribbled in the lower right-hand corner, just to give that box element in the upper left-hand, just to kind of balance that. So that's the type of, us readers, we're always looking for balance. And so we do, because of that, we talk about it a lot throughout while we're designing. When you're creating balance, when your page is balanced, you will not notice elements as being individual. How you will notice then that your whole page will become one piece. Even when you have text, images, what have you, it'll become one piece in the viewer's eyes, will flow from one element to the next, to the next, to the next seamlessly. There are 4 types of balance and ways to create it. The first one, and most often used, is symmetrical. Think of a mirror image. If you were to draw a line down this Georgia O'Keeffe image, it would be, almost the exact same elements on either side of the line. We're often drawn to this form of balance because it's visually interesting, exciting, and also feels in harmony. Asymmetrical, you draw the line down the center. Notice that red dot on the right hand side, because it's heavy and it's not heavy, and stands out in contrast in that black. It really feels like it's balanced, even though we have a lot more gray on the left hand side if you were to draw it down that imaginary line. This is considered asymmetrical. However, one thing when using asymmetrical balance, you want to it's important to use this carefully because an unbalanced page or screen kind of will create a feeling of tension in your readers, and you don't want that. Radial makes sense. Objects designed in a radius or in the center and kind of radiate out from the center point. So if you look at that small little 5 in the center, then we've kind of got this large medium 5, and then we've got this large 5 on the outside. So it's starting out and spiraling out or in. You can go either way. Repetition is using objects or a theme over and over again for reinforcement. Here we've got a ton of penguins. Even though the one is colored to stand out with the label above it, it says there's got to be a better way to get employers' attention. But you can see there that they are using that penguin for some sort of repetition. When thinking about balance, white space is and it may not always be white, but it's a place for your eye to rest, especially when you have a lot of text and images. When you think of like a newsletter, there's a lot of information there, but there still needs to be a spot for the eye to rest. And in here we have a balanced, in the white box below, we have a balanced with the large gray box on the left with the boxes, and then we have the kind of violet with the orange box on the left. So the two boxes balance each other, and we also have a large amount of white space to kind of rest our eyes, which is good. In some case, when you have something that's too heavy, here we've got that big dark gray box on the right hand side. You may have noticed that your eye automatically goes right to it, and you totally lose the grayed out box on the left. So this is not a page of balance. We're getting better with this one. We included a gray box on the left, a little rectangle rather, and it's getting there. We'd still want a little something more to have balance. Dominance, darker values, advance our visual perception, which means we notice that. So when you're using, maybe if you're using a dark kind of black and white photo, and then you would want to think about the fonts that you use and how dark is this going to be, because darker values we notice first. Same thing here. Even though we have that box on the right hand side, that light pink box, it's balanced. It feels balanced because that darker box on the left is heavy, and we notice that first. So even though it's smaller, it stands out. Proximity we talk about a lot in graphic design. If you have an image, you want to have the text that corresponds with that image right close by it. It needs to be next to each other for proximity. And we'll talk about that as we go through. We also use a grid often to work with, and when we get to Publisher, we'll talk about grids and how they can help kind of make sure that your text and your images, everything that's related together, is sitting near each other. And that's really what proximity is. Typography, we talk a lot about typography because it can make a big difference in your design. There are a variety of fonts to choose from. If you go out to google.com and just put in free fonts, you will be amazed at the amount of fonts available to you. So let's take a look at this example. I just did the word typography, 4 different font styles, and you can see they convey very different types of meanings. The one on the top, a little more fancy, formal, that type of thing. The second one down from the top, definitely childish, kind of playful. The third one down, more serious, standard, professional looking. The fourth one down, I have some students who say feels kind of, creepy, like Halloween kind of like. Other students I've heard say, kind of like old, kind of like parchment writing, and depending on the message you're wanting to convey. Also, they can convey meanings, so look at grace here, strength, light, and childish. Notice the contrast between strength, that big block, thick letters, really showing this is a, strong font. In contrast, light, very light letters, thin, that type of thing. Here are some examples of, as the way they have used fonts. I challenge you as you're driving around, look at, billboards as you're driving. Also a great place to look at fonts and just kind of notice balance and typography is at the at the superstores, whether you're at Walmart, Target, what have you, in the grocery store. Just take a look at the packages and the signs, that type of thing, and you'll start to notice balance. Is this asymmetrical, symmetrical, radial? And then what type of fonts did they use to convey their product, hopefully.